Hi, I'm Dave Monty. Welcome to my video series, Everything Villages. Today I am going to do a real estate market update. It is June 2026, so stay tuned. As always, before we get started, if you like this video, please hit like. If you like my channel, please consider subscribing. Both those actions help these videos reach more people, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, you can email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com, and I will send you out a copy. I also have a nifty cost of living calculator / budgeting tool that you can also email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. Like I said in the introduction, I'm going to do a market update for the villages. And before I get into the numbers like I usually do, I just want to share some of the observations that I've been making over the last few months here. Like I said in the introduction, we're going to do a market overview. And I'm just going to share some observations to begin with, and we'll talk about some of the numbers when we start getting into the numbers in this presentation. All right, what I'm seeing is that homes that need updating are staying on the market much longer. Inventories, the months of inventories are improving. We've had a very steady number of homes on the market. However, we've actually seen a little boost in the number of people making purchases over the last few months, which results in the months of inventory going down. I'll show you those numbers on the next slide. Buyers are lowballing and sellers are holding firm. Okay, so that still is a little bit of a trend here. Sellers have a little bit of wishful thinking on what their home is worth. They're still kind of got COVID pricing in their mind. And then buyers are seeing inventories increase and they're lowballing offers, and neither one of those is right and neither one of those are working. The wishful thinkers are struggling in this market. The people who have more realistic expectations, both on the buyers and seller side, are finding this market pretty easy to navigate. Another thing that I have noticed is a lot of buyers coming into the villages and surrounding areas are coming in to look at homes before they have sold their home up north and wanting to make contingent offers. And we'll talk about that. And that seems to be an increase, because I do believe some of the northern markets have slowed down a lot more than the villages, and it's starting to affect some of the timing for the buyers here. Interest rates. You'll notice that I did not mention interest rates in the last slide. The reason I didn't mention them is because a lot more people buy cash here in the villages. But I think more importantly is that people have just gotten used to those higher interest rates and they're not a shock anymore. So it's not necessarily holding people back. I think buyers now have a mentality that just says, hey, let's put a stake in the ground. If interest rates go up, great, I'm in at an average okay rate. And if they go down, I'll just refinance. So the interest rates are not having as much of an effect on the market as I believe they did a couple of years ago. We're going to talk about months of inventory. This is probably the strongest metric that determines whether it is a seller's or a buyer's market. If you haven't seen my videos before, what months of inventory is basically you just take how much inventory we currently have and divide it by how fast homes are selling. And if no other homes came on the market and every one of these got purchased, it would take X number of months to exhaust that existing inventory. Okay, now, historically, they've always said that a balanced market is 6 months of inventory. What I'm finding in reality is closer to 3 months, and that's exactly where we are. We do feel like we're in a very balanced market right now. If I were to tell you that the months of inventory is 2.8, if you look historically, you would think it's an incredibly strong seller's market, and it's not. But we're also not near 6 months either, where buyers would think that this is a strong buyer's market. And like I said, I believe we're in a very balanced market right now, and the numbers are starting to show that. Months of inventory have continued to decline. Okay, so you'll see over the last 6 months, we've had really a pretty sharp decline in the months of inventory. The inventory levels are remaining the same. However, how fast homes are selling are starting to accelerate. Like I just said in the previous slide, that we are starting to see the inventories level off. Okay? And again, the reason why the months of inventory is going down is not because the inventory is going down. It is because homes are selling a little bit faster right now in the villages than they were a few months ago. Now, here's the number of new listings month by month, and you can see that there is an increase in the number of new listings. And because we're selling homes a little bit faster, it does mean that the inventories are level. So what is causing the increase in new listings? I don't believe it has anything to do with a seller's mindset. I actually just think it's because the villages is continuing to grow, and the more houses that you have, the raw number of homes that come on the market is going to increase. Number of sales is following suit. And as you can see, almost the same sort of level of increase as you had new listings come on the market. The number of sales is keeping pace with the increase of new listings. And again, I don't believe this has anything to do with, again, seller or buyer mentality, very much to do with the fact that the villages continues to grow. Days to sell. Now this one has increased over the last few years. You can really see the increase in the number of days it takes actually to go under contract. Over the last 3 or 4 months, though, this has started to subside a little bit. So you are starting to see that come down. Now, one thing I mentioned in the introduction is that homes that need some updating take much longer to sell, and I think that is skewing this number higher. I took a look at all the homes that sold in the last 6 months between 466 and 44. One of the most desired areas in the villages. And you have a wide range of ages of home and wide range of conditions of homes. All I did is I went down and I glanced through pictures real quick out of the 160 listings and just used my best judgment to say, I believe this one shows well and has been updated. I believe this other one needs to be either updated or needs to be staged a little bit better. When I got done, I just took the average days on market before I went under contract. Homes that needed updating or needed better staging were almost over 90 days on the market. Homes that did not need it, that showed well, were 48 days on market. So right now, homes that show well are still selling. Now, I didn't look at any other factor in there, like is it on water, does it have a view, does it have room for a pool? I didn't really look at any of that. I just did it based on condition and, again, a real quick judgment on my part. So why is that the case? Okay. A majority of buyers are still coming from out of state. They are new retirees who just worked for 40 years, and I've heard it over and over and over again. I just worked for 40 years. The last thing I want to do is update a home on my own. So most of the buyers coming in, which is this big circle over here, want an updated or a new home. And then the number of updated homes is a much smaller percentage of the homes that are actually on the market. So what we're seeing is a small inventory for a big audience, and that's why the homes are not staying on the market as long if the home is updated. The converse is true as well. The buyers willing to update is a small subset of the overall buyers, and a lot of the homes on the market need sweat equity. So a lot of that big market of people who just want updated homes sometimes get frustrated, don't see a home that meets kind of those new and modern standards, and they're just going ahead and buying new homes. So if you're watching this as a listing client, it is imperative that you make your home look the best and make it look as modern as possible. Update pricing. Okay? So there's the cost of updating and there's the convenience premium. So often, and we can help you do this as well, often we can make some small investments either with floors, popcorn ceilings, paint, maybe appliances, one or the other. A lot of times the investment that you make you're going to get more than that back when you sell the house. The other thing that I've done is I worked with a lot of my vendors that allow you to pay for these updates at closing. So if you're looking to sell your house and you think your home needs a little bit of updating, feel free to contact me and we can talk in more detail about the service that we provide here. The most important thing that everyone would like to talk about is where's pricing going. So here is pricing. It's been basically the same curve for a few years now. We were going at a pretty steady pace, and COVID happens, and since COVID, the pricing has been coming down. Now, you'll notice last year we had a big dip in pricing. This year it has leveled off quite a bit. And I point this out all the time. If I were just to take the rate that homes were appreciating before COVID, where the pricing is today is where we would have been if it just continued to steadily march up. And that's what we're seeing right here. You can see the slope. This would indicate how fast homes were appreciating. I extend that out, and that's about where we are right now. This view is just changing the scale over here so you can see the trending a little bit better. Here's COVID, a big hump, slowly coming down over time. Last year, a big drop in pricing. A lot of things happened at one time. Some of it has to do with interest rates. A lot of things were happening nationwide that gave people a little bit of hesitation in buying homes. But you can see this year, you're starting to see that really level off. That's because I think we've come into a very balanced market. The next thing we're going to talk about is close price from the original list price to the selling price. And as you can see during COVID, no matter what pricing people put on it, basically they were getting it. So whatever they originally listed for, that's what they were selling it for. After COVID, you saw a big decline in that ratio. And between the original price and what the home ends up selling for is about 6% off the original price. There's another ratio, which is the current list price to what the home sells for. And that's usually what people negotiate. And what we're seeing there is about 2.5% on the ratio there. That means from the original price, it goes down to a new list price. People lowered the price. Then they negotiated with the buyer on average of 2.5%. And again, sometimes they offer list price, sometimes it's much lower. This is an average. But that's a 3.5% to 4% decrease in pricing until it got to a list price where buyers were willing to make an offer. Okay. Now, why is there still that gap in there? Because typically this number hovers closer around a 3.5% to 4%. And you don't necessarily have price drops all the time. That's because sellers are holding on to COVID pricing, and they continue to do that. A house sells down the street for X amount of dollars, and that's what they have in their mind, but that happened 3 years ago. Okay, so the sellers are still pricing their homes too high. They're sitting on the market a little bit longer. Once it gets to the price where it's enticing for the buyer, then the buyers are still negotiating a little bit. Okay, so the goal when you're going to list your house is to avoid this 4% overpricing and try to get it to a price where buyers are going to be interested in your home. Price per square foot. So this is a little bit of a different graph. I usually don't handle this in the market analysis, but I get asked this a lot. When is the best time to buy a house in the Villages? So all I did here was do an average price per square foot over the last 5 years. And I've done this over 10 years, over 5 years, and it kind of remains the same. January closings, these are homes that sold. Okay, so the closings in January have the lowest price per square foot. However, that means that the house went under contract 4 to 6 weeks before. That would be mid-November to December. So if you're looking for the best bargain out there, it's when the homes are not selling as much. That is going to be in that November, December timeframe. Here's busy season. Okay, so February is a little bit stronger because people are now putting contracts on in January and all the way up through April. And you can just really see that busy time effect. Then you start to see real quickly a decrease in pricing. This is in my opinion, the best time to buy. Here, I think you got to get a little bit lucky. But if you're looking in the summer time frames, it's a long period to take a look at homes. You can look at much more inventory. You can feel if the heat here is an issue for you. You can also rent a very inexpensive patio villa, $1,600–1,700 a month as you're looking for a home. And what's interesting, you'll start to see an increase in home buying near the end of the summer when they're going under contract, peaks in November, and then again starts to go down as we approach the holidays. Okay, so if you're looking for the very best deal and don't necessarily care about seeing a lot of inventory, December, okay, again, these homes go under contract in November, December is probably your best bet. If you want just a very steady buying experience, I do recommend buying in the summer months. So I'm using this slide sort of as a summary as well as discuss some broader observations of the market. As I've already pointed out, the sales prices have flattened. We did the COVID spike, prices started coming down. Last year they came down a little bit faster, and this year they have leveled off. Both sellers and buyers are kind of in wishful thinking mode. Sellers, when presented with the math and fair market values, they see a range of pricing, and even after seeing the math, a lot of sellers are trying to list their homes above even the range of pricing their home should sell in. So a lot of sellers right now kind of still have wishful thinking and still have COVID on their brain a little bit. Then on the buyer side, we are still seeing a little bit of wishful thinking. Buyers right now think a good deal means that they can negotiate strongly. I've seen it backfire with a lot of buyers where there is a house that is out there that is at fair market value, that is a good deal. Because they're unable to, in their mind, negotiate further down, they're passing up good opportunities. Advice there is ask your agent to show you market analysis to ground the pricing in reality, both on the seller side and the buyer side. Another observation is that a lot of buyers are having difficulty selling their homes in other markets, and it has delayed their ability to buy homes here in the villages. A lot of them are coming in, they're looking at homes. I love this house. Will they take a contingent offer on the sale of my house? Well, the answer is contingencies do work if your house is under contract and there is a close date. The other way it does work is if we do believe that their market, because some of them are cooling off, but some of them are still red hot. If they happen to be in a red hot market, then the seller here in the villages might want to bet on that hotter market. And that is a conversation to have with your listing agent if it makes sense for your situation. Okay. If the home is priced at a fair market value, if it is staged decently and has decent updates to the home, they're still selling in a reasonable time frame, on average about 2 months. If your home is above fair market value and it needs some updating, we are seeing those homes closing or going under contract around 100 days. So there's a huge difference in there. So again, to sellers, if you're at fair market value, you shouldn't have any problem selling your home. And to the buyers out there, if you see a home that is at fair market value, doesn't mean that you can't negotiate, but don't expect sellers to take a lowball offer after they've lowered their price several times. As always, a little bit of housekeeping at the end as well. If you like this video, please hit like. If you'd like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, you can email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. You can also email me for my cost of living calculator / budgeting tool. I hope you found this video informative. I hope to see you around the villages. Take care.